I think founder owners, who were service level experts before they got into their business, they run the risk of being too in the weeds. I think like former finance people who are searchers run the opposite risk of being too out of the weeds. And then like searchers are a whole range, right? Like there are searcher types that are like, yeah, I'm going to go learn and I want to like, become an HVAC tech before I manage people. Like you could definitely do that, but that might not actually be the right way to grow your business out of fragility.
What if this were a topic at SMBash? The sort of comparison of lease versus buy, cash buy versus finance.
Totally.
And then things like gas cards, on-site, above ground gas tanks, the whole bit. Because we're all dealing
That'd be
with
awesome. Yeah, 100%. Like, I bet one of the HVAC plumbing guys would be perfect for that.
Oh, I was going to volunteer you, but that works.
Pass. All right. Welcome to The Intentional Owner. We are back from SMBash. I think we'll do some recap today, but I'm curious to hear you had a fun little trip, which is why we're recording on a Friday instead of a Tuesday. So tell me about it.
Oh, man. Are you asking about the Masters?
I might be.
The greatest tradition on earth. Yeah, so the reason we're recording on a Friday instead of a Tuesday is because I took my wife up to see Augusta National Golf Club and the Masters. My wife is not a golfer. She's never played. I think I've seen her swing a golf club once, but like a lot of people who don't golf, they still know what the Masters is. So
do they though?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's still just like if you're not a golfer, it's just a golf course.
Yeah, but I think if it is the one golf event a year that's mainstream.
Yeah.
So like if you pay attention to sports at all, I think you at least know what it is. So anyway,
I guess
she's also married to me. She has to.
Yeah. That's right. That's how I feel about like horse racing. Like where I'm moving apartments soon, like Anna and I are just gonna our like housewarming thing. We're just gonna do like a Kentucky Derby brunch, which is just like sure we'll watch the Kentucky Derby for the 2 minutes that it's on, but like otherwise we're just hanging out.
That's a good point. It's like, have either of us ever heard of any of the horses or the jockeys? Or no, of course not.
No. So there is there's a horse racing place here in Seattle, like outside the city called Emerald City Downs. And so we went there I went for the first time ever with some of my buddies for one of their 30th birthday parties. And you go there and betting on horse racing is incredibly confusing. And like they do not try to simplify it down for you. Like it's just this like old school like betting machine that you have to click on the race and like find the race, find the horse. And what ended up happening is I clicked on the wrong button and I accidentally ended up betting on some horses on a race in the Bay Area, like not even where we were. And so while I'm like sitting here watching our horse races, I have to pull up the live stream of my horses in California on my phone, and they lost. But it was just one of those strange, like this is like a weird sports tradition.
It is, and yet like hugely popular.
So popular. Anyways, so you went to the Masters. How was that a good like decompress from SMBash last week?
It was fantastic. Other than I kind of forgot that it was Masters Week until I was packing for SMBash for Dallas. And I said, holy cow, I'm going to go for 3 days, come back home for a couple days and then back on the road. So,
yeah,
but it was fantastic. The I don't want to say the best part. If you can get a ticket, which is cheap if you win the lottery or you can buy one or get, a friend to share one, great. If you have to buy it off the street, then it's expensive. But when you get in, you don't spend much money unless you buy merch. So like the pimento cheese sandwiches are $1.50. Like a soda is, I don't know, $2.
Wow.
So like you can kind of eat, drink a bunch of junk all day long and not get killed on price. You go to the merchandise tent. That's a misnomer. You can go to the merchandise warehouse and get absolutely smoked on merchandise.
What'd you get? Did you get anything?
God, that's a personal question. I got way too much stuff. So hats, shirts, the kids are going to be wearing Master stuff.
Nice.
Office decorations. So suffice to say, it's not easy to get there. So while you're there, you might as well.
Might as well. Yeah. I went to the LPGA championship because I was out here in Seattle area at
Yeah.
Sahali. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed that. It was like, yeah, there's like fewer people, I think, because it's LPGA, so you can actually like watch more closely. And the players, they play a game that you can kind of understand, right? Because like they're really playing the course. I thought it was really fun. That was the first time I've been to a golf tournament.
So we have an LPGA here in town, and I
Yeah.
go every year because they hit it as far as we do.
Yeah.
They don't play like they play a normal game like us.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
relatable.
It's like
All
like
right.
that's I was listening to another golf podcast and they're talking about like if you actually want to get good at golf, like you should be watching the ladies sport the ladies golf tour because like they're playing the course smartly, whereas like the men's tour is just sort of silly. They're like driving at 300 yards. Like we're never gonna play that way.
Bomb and gouge. We don't have
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So last thing, and then we'll move on to the topic at hand, is the Masters does not let you bring cell phones in to the event.
Really?
So
Oh, so Tuesday
Wednesday,
or okay, you didn't have your phone on Wednesday.
I went from 7:30 in the morning until 5 o'clock at night.
Okay.
I didn't have my phone.
How did that feel?
The politically correct way to say is I felt exposed.
Mhm.
It was really, really odd. Like I was reaching to the back of my pocket, like pants pocket to like grab,
Yep.
and I didn't have it, or like just no phone calls, no text. It was crazy. It was also crazy to think how quickly I got caught up, like 2 hours that night, and I was pretty much had made all the calls back, checked the and it's
Yep.
like, man, during the day, you look at your phone 400 times, and when you batch it, it's 2 hours and done.
So I changed my notification settings now where my email batches once an hour, which is like, that's a gateway drug to like, really batching it properly. But like now every email doesn't ding my phone.
So I turned off my dings. So the only
Yeah.
way I'll ever get a notification is if I open it up and look at my text or email.
Like your phone doesn't even buzz.
It doesn't buzz. The only thing it will do like externally is ring. It will not ding, buzz, nothing. It doesn't even have the little red button that shows there's a notification. None of that.
Right. Oh, wow. No, mine is now doing this thing where like it like creates like it's built into iOS, like your next summary. So at any moment I could click on that and it'll just show me the notifications that are sort of pending. But at the end of each hour, it delivers them all to me. It's built into
Okay.
iOS. It's kind of cool. It's under settings, notification. And then there's a thing called scheduled summary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've set up, I mean, this is going to look batshit when I show it to you, but like, I don't know if you can see this or not.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So the way it's set up, it allows you to do a max of 12 summaries, which is I've used all of them. So there's a 605 summary, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then between 5 and 5, I don't get email notifications.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, all right, folks, that's it for today. We gave you a tip.
Call it a day. Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. To be clear, like all that getting rid of notifications is great unless like it causes you to want to open your phone 400 times a day.
Yeah. That's what you got to like wean yourself off of it. Right.
Yes, exactly.
The two apps that I get the most notifications from, one is Outlook, obviously, but the second is my cat's like litter box, like the auto. Like every freaking time that like it's like, okay, we did another clean cycle or like cat detected, and I was just like, I cannot change the settings to something that I actually want, but because I do need to know when like it needs to get replaced because the litter box is at the office, it's not here. So anyways, those are my two most common apps.
Okay. Anybody who gets this far, which is like 10 minutes in, you could have fast forwarded and been just fine.
Just fine. Well, let's talk about SMBash. I had such a good time. I'm excited to hear kind of how your takeaways were as an organizer and kind of things you took away, things you learned. But I was curious before even getting to that, like this is year 4 of SMBash. I assume like it makes some money, but I don't think it's like, it's not putting you in a private jet. So like, what is the, like, like, it's a lot of headache to put on a conference. And obviously Tara was a big part of this one, and a huge organizer. But I'm curious, like, why do you do this in the first place?
Oh man, that's a great question. So the origin story of SMBash was back during COVID. So it must have been late 2020. If you remember, because you were on Twitter at the time, for
Hmm.
some reason, many of us searchers or business owners went to Twitter to communicate. It wasn't Search Funder for some reason. It must have been like the nature of the platform on Twitter. So when we went there, and then COVID was loosening up, Florida was wide open, and we were all itching to actually meet in person.
Hmm.
Uh, two guys and I kind of had this crazy idea. It was Matt Hinson and Brandon Lothridge and myself.
That's right. I
Neither
forgot
of
it was.
which is
Yeah.
still involved because it's not really involved, what they do for a living. So we just said, hey, it wasn't even a conference. It was like a meetup.
Yeah.
And if you remember, like you were there and
That
you
was
were
in
working on your
Orlando.
deal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That was like a couple weeks before before I closed on acquiring Bluma. That was crazy.
Yeah. Cause you told us you
Yeah.
might have to bail.
Yeah, that's right. But that was fun. Yeah, no, I remember that. Okay. But like now, like 4 years in, I thought this one was the best one yet. And we can talk about why, but like, what's now the motivating factor? Like, you've got your friends in this world. Like, you see your kind of all the people you collaborate with a lot, in S&P Law, SM Bootcamp, all of that. Like, what's the so what now?
Yeah. So it's super clear now, especially because it takes a lot more work than most people imagine. It's a couple hours a week, for 6 months. And then the
Mhm.
last month or two before, it's a lot more than that.
Mhm.
And as great as Tara is at all of the logistics planning, there's only so much that we can sort of outsource
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, the magic is in the content and in the people that come and participate. So that's where a lot of the heavy lifting is. But the why is personally feel lucky to have stumbled upon ETA because when I was leaving Big Law and I was burnt out, we've hashed that out sufficiently. I had to quit before I could figure out what my next step was because I was so burned out. And so in many ways, ETA for me kind of feels like it saved me from a dead end
Mhm.
in a place it was a dark place personally. So I don't know. I just feel very grateful for the community, and I'm always surprised at how generous the people are in this community to sharing for better and for worse. So I don't know. In many ways, for our community, it feels like the one time a year most of us try to get together in person if we can,
Totally. Yep.
and it just seems like it has been a chance for a lot of people going through the life cycle of ETA to come and share. It's relatively unvarnished. We really try to promote, like, don't sugarcoat things, tell the real story, even if it's tough or bad. And it's fun. So, yeah, that's why we do it. And no, it doesn't make
Nice.
a bunch of money. Some years we, like, yeah, I won't share too many details, but there are some years, like, we don't make any money. And if we lost a bunch, we probably wouldn't do it the next year. But we've always made just enough to say, all right, it's still worth doing. It's worth the pain. And so we do.
Yeah, the real question is you got to divide it by hours and see if you're clearing minimum wage or not. That's the bar.
It's I've seen former iBankers do that where it's like total comp, great, comp per hour, not great.
Not great. Yeah. No, that's exactly right. But hey, this is a great one. I thought it went really well.
All right, why? So what made this year great? And I want to hear feedback pro and con.
Yeah. So this year had a surprisingly new set of participants. Like, I knew fewer people than I thought I would know.
Speakers
Um,
or attendees or both?
I'd say attendees. I knew a higher percentage of speakers than I knew of attendees for sure.
Yep. Which so we try to track a lot of this information. that was exciting because in the past, we have heard that what this is an in-person meetup of SMB Twitter.
Right.
And now it doesn't feel like that at all.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I mean, I was
So
talking to some people who, they've never looked at SMB Twitter. Um, they've they've been running their own businesses for 10 plus years, and they somehow found this community, and they're like, oh, maybe I should do add-ons to grow. It was like, it was just a surprisingly organic and eclectic group. It was a lot more operator heavy this year, I felt, right? I don't know what
yes,
the actual split was, but it seemed a lot more operator heavy.
it was almost, if you exclude speakers, sponsors, and hosts, then the remaining splits were roughly 50-50 searcher and operator. Operator being both operator of a business they own and operator of a business they don't.
Hmm.
So completely. And that was a big piece of feedback 2 years ago is like somebody who buys had no place there. And so 2 years ago, we did the dual tracks where
Totally.
other than the keynote sessions, of which we had 5, every other time block was you could pick a searcher topic or an operator topic.
And I thought the keynotes were excellent this year. I don't know, Brent, Beshore, Moses. I forget if Moses and Kagan's was a keynote or
Yeah,
just
it
operator.
was.
Yeah. And then Josh Schultz,
Yep.
Paul Henderson, and at the very end, Christian Ruff, right? Like each, am I missing any? Or is that it?
No, you got them all.
Yeah, as well. Yeah. Okay. So like, this is, I feel like the only time I've ever been to a conference where I was like, oh, I'm going to listen to all the keynotes, right? Like I
Yeah.
looked at the list and I'm like, oh, great. This is all stuff I want to hear about.
And so we got really good feedback about the content. And at the end of the day, if that's all we get right and some of the other stuff stinks, the food stinks or the beer runs out or something, so be it. The content has to be exceptional. And I think we got that right this year.
Yeah. I mean, the one that both Brent Beshore's talk and Moses Kagan's talk went in directions I didn't think they were going. They were less about their businesses, right, than I thought they would be about, which was interesting. The Brent's talk in particular, he really spent a lot of time focusing on how to be vulnerable with your friends and peers and kind of build community, which was really cool. Just like not what I thought he'd be talking about.
In many ways, so Brent, I asked him to lead on topic when we were planning, and he offered that topic as sort of from the feedback he got on his annual letter.
Mm.
And I also think for the crowd at SMBash, while like state of permanent equity as a business is interesting, I don't find it particularly applicable.
That's true. Right. Like I can't go out and raise a 30-year fund the way Brent has, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm not trying to like follow in his footsteps right now, but there's a lot I can learn from him.
Yeah, totally. Which is why I try to start it in the conversation going way back, because not a lot of us remember when he bought in the early days, like he was like us.
Mm-hmm.
Seat of the pants, didn't feel like he knew what he was doing. So it was a fun conversation. He's a thoughtful guy too.
Yeah. And I think part of what I find really interesting about his journey is it has like the parallel track of him also becoming religious along the way, which is super interesting as a pretty non-religious person to kind of see somebody in his shoes kind of go through that. Because I feel like a lot of what you and I are attracted to within small business ETA space is the community aspect of it. Right. And like you and I both enjoy community building, right? Like SMBash is a core part of that. I like to do that in Seattle. And so it's interesting to see like for how many people these small business spaces, like if they're not religious, right? And like their religious community is not their core community, oftentimes their small business space becomes their core community beyond just professional.
Ooh, that's a good point. That's a really good point. And I would say, shoot, I don't know if I have call it a community that feels like work and life are tied together the way I do in this community here.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is kind of related, unrelated, but while you were at the Masters having a nice time, I went to Napa, also had a nice time for a day. But I flew down on Tuesday and spoke. I gave basically the KPI talk I did at SMBash. I did a very similar version of that at this event that was put on. It was basically like peer group, coaching group for owners of dance studios. And so there were like 30 owners in the room, and they had been brought here for like a retreat into like, both bonding and learning. And so I gave a talk, and it was just stunning. Like this group of people are so engaged with each other. They like clearly, like these are true friendships, and like they're from all over the country. Right. And I was chatting with some of them over lunch, and just this idea that like they didn't feel like they had peers locally, even amongst other dance studio owners, the way they do with this specific group of people who are self-selecting in. And it's just like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Like that, just like finding your people is such a big deal.
That's really interesting. Do you think it's because locally people were hesitant to share due to competition, but once you realize you're not competitors and yet you do the same thing, it's a natural bond?
Honestly, I think there's a little bit of the competition, which sort of puts people a little on edge to begin with. But I think more than competition, it's pretty difficult to find people whose motivations match your motivations with your business. It's a lot easier to find that once you start looking cross country.
Got it. Yeah. I think that you are onto something in getting involved in tree care nationally. So
Yeah,
why do you do it? Because you're not going to go get more customers through being on national organizations of tree care. Why do you do it?
totally. Yeah, I mean, so I'm on the board of the Pacific Northwest chapter of our arborist, trade group, basically. And I found that quite rewarding. I find like working in a nonprofit setting kind of hard. That's a different, that's just like a
Yeah.
personality mismatch.
Yeah.
But the like, there's something cool about like, hey, like this is a group of individuals that have collectively decided that this is a thing they really care about. And I'm like a late entrant, right? Like everyone else there has been an arborist for years. I'm the only non-certified arborist on the board. And
But you're the treasurer, right?
but I am the treasurer, so that's okay. Also, when this airs next week on Thursday next week, I will be taking my certified exam that day. So we'll
So
find
cool.
out. I might pass. But no, like I think the like getting to learn how other arborists or tree care owners, how they think about their industry, their trade, their careers, their businesses, like it's just so much good information, and just like it helps you think about your own business in a more nuanced way. I think I'm just like constantly looking for somebody thinking about their own thing a little bit differently or smartly or in a way I hadn't thought about, because I'm always like that just feels like I'm always like, am I missing something?
Right. And by definition, you're a newcomer to an industry. So you're, whether you are behind or just sort of feeling behind, this helps you become an insider quicker.
Totally. And the community's been extremely welcoming, which is cool, right? Like they didn't have to be that way. But the board and other local tree care companies have been very welcoming in like being like, hey, like we're curious to hear what you're doing. Like, why did you pick our industry? That's the attitude more than like, who are you? Why are you here?
Totally. With the added
Um,
benefit of maybe, another acquisition comes from it at some point in time.
yeah, totally. So we'll see what happens down that path. But it's been fun to just meet a lot of tree. I mean, at the last year's or no, sorry, 2 years ago, the major conference for our local or like our Pacific Northwest chapter, was starting to discuss acquiring one of our add-ons, but the conference fell like before we'd figured out the LOI or anything like that. So it was too early to like really acknowledge anything. And so I'm up there at the podium giving my talk as the treasurer, like the financial update for the organization. And I can see that seller,
Oh,
who is this like total badass arborist. She's great. But she's just sitting there with her arms folded, just watching me. And I'm like, oh my God, I am on stage right now. I'm like, am I a worthy buyer for her business?
but there's also like some serendipity there, right? Didn't you get your new auto insurance broker from your trade group?
The auto insurance I got through one of the other tree company owners. And so they're associated with the
Ah,
commercial trade group. Yeah, exactly. So there's like I'm involved with the like arborist education group. And then there's a more commercial trade group that's more national.
got it. Got it.
Um,
I think you've told that story, so we won't rehash it.
no, it's all good. But okay, so that was Brent's talk, which I really enjoyed. One of the other ones I'm curious what you thought of was Chris Kerner. Is that how you
Yep.
say his last name? Chris Kerner's talk. And he was talking about these, like, what do you need to do as a business owner at different scales of your business. And my big takeaway from that was every stage, like being in the weeds and knowing the weeds is super valuable. I don't know. That's just like not necessarily was a takeaway I was expecting him to say.
I assume that was your sort of conclusion that we talked
Yeah.
about. But do you worry that being in the weeds too much will restrict you from time on the business needed to grow inorganically or sort of strategic initiatives to sort of go from, where you are to a bigger platform?
I think it has more to do with the personality of the owner. I think founder owners, who were service level experts before they
Yeah.
got into their business,
Yep.
they run the risk of being too in the weeds. I think like former finance people who are searchers run the opposite risk of being too out of the weeds. And then like searchers are a whole range, right? Like there are searcher types that are like, yeah, I'm going to go learn and I want to like, become an HVAC tech before I
Yep.
manage people. Like you can definitely do that, but that might not actually be the right way to grow your business out of fragility. And so I think that depends on owner personality. There's like a compromising middle somewhere. And so which side you need to move towards is just a function, I think, of what that owner is like. I don't know if you agree or think differently.
Yeah, like I don't know if I have a broad conclusion there. Every business is different. I I fundamentally align with the need to be in the weeds early on. The hardest part is once you've been there for a year or two and then like the levers to pull and where to reinvest. You still have to ride the J curve down. And
It's
and
true.
so that's a huge challenge. I'd say another one is like if at any point early on there's a sales problem, that's usually the problem that is really hard to solve.
Right.
So like if I had to think about which weeds to be in, it's sales early on,
You just have to generate revenue no matter what.
no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not anywhere near ideal if that revenue generation is on you, the owner's back, but it's certainly preferable to having a revenue problem.
Yeah, that was a challenging one for me in our transition into the business because all of our sales are done by arborists, right? Like certified
Right.
arborists.
Yep.
So if we're like somebody's out sick, it's not like I can just like show up and fill in, um, which forced us to get better and like hire more redundancy at the arborist position, so we have like more capacity than we needed. But I can imagine like if you were more capital constrained early on, or like, I mean, everyone's capital constrained. It's just like, it might not be where you actually put the funds for
Yep.
backup is on the sales side because the owner, if anything, could do sales.
Right. Or in your case where you had several people who could deal with converting leads to customers,
Right.
there's still other sales functions like generating leads. So,
Correct.
which I think
That I
is a
kept in house.
25 thing for you, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
That's a big focus area now. So anyways, yeah, that one was interesting. Do you have any you wanted to talk about specifically?
Uh, yeah, I've got a couple. So first of all, like I'm not just trying to, you know, give you kudos here just because you're my friend, but like very transparently, your presentation on KPIs and financial reporting is so good and so needed by the community because I think so many people, what makes ETA great is you don't have to have a hardcore finance and accounting background to get into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is incredibly scary is the lack of visibility into those metrics by searchers when they get into the seat and they think that it's as easy as hire a System 6 or an Apple Tree or one of the usual sort of go-to outsourced accounting vendors in our community, and all I have to do is just hire them, pay the fee, and I get this set of financials, and that's really all I need. There is the accounting and finance function, and so that, like, to be very clear that is incorrect, and to at least give the path towards like an ideal reporting process. And but the punchline was like there's not meant to be automations to do this. Like
Right.
the learning is in like creating and doing the reporting yourself. So
Yeah. I mean, the beauty of small business is you can do non-scalable things for a while, right? Like it is on a small enough scale that you don't have to solve that problem of how do we actually automate it or scale it. Because like to deal with that problem once you're scaling, right? That's a high class problem to have.
it is. What else? I really enjoy talking
Well,
to Chase.
thank you for the kind words though. I appreciate that. That's very nice.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'll try to reserve my compliments from now on.
Yeah.
Chase and Palmer are fantastic because they're incredibly down to earth, good guys who, it's so easy just to grab a couple beers and catch up and, commiserate. But then they are so thoughtful about the things they're doing. And they're both doing the same thing where they're building a holding company in fundamentally different ways. And it's fascinating to watch that and to hear how their approaches diverge. So
what was the prime, like if you had to define the divergence in like a sentence or two between Dakota Group and Chenmark, like how would you say it?
So the divergence is fundamentally one of their holding companies is geographically agnostic and highly focused on internally creating a leadership funnel to place operators first, like in their holding company and then out to a company that they buy. And yet those operators are highly incentivized by the equity at the holding company level.
Yep, that's right.
So like a Berkshire with everyone owning equity in Berkshire.
Right. Even if they're operating a specific company within
Correct.
that Berkshire owns. Yep.
And then Chenmark, that is Chenmark. And then Dakota that Chase runs is like incredibly geographically focused in Salt Lake City. And while like philosophically the same insofar as spending a lot of time generating like the leadership bench, they are incentivizing their people with equity at the operating company level of the operating company that leader operates.
Yep.
And yet like where they converge is the idea that while the shared services model was the way they thought they would end up, they have very much gone to a decentralized model. So fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like, given that they've both landed at decentralizing shared services, I wonder why Chenmark and Palmer aren't choosing to then also push equity down to the company level because there's less of a shared impact.
Great question. Why didn't you ask that one?
I don't know. I got distracted.
So yeah, let's see. That was great. I tried to spend some time at the Searcher Track rooms. I don't know. I was really, really impressed by the content quality this year. What else? What could we do better? Like give somebody a warning when they show up. Like this was messed up.
Well, I mean, I thought this year was nice to have more unstructured time, and that was part of the plan.
Yeah.
I think it could be cool, especially given as the audience is changing year to year so much, to have some like structured get to know each other time, if you know what I mean, like more structured networking.
Yeah.
And like I'm like as an introvert, and like luckily this conference is ideal for me as an introvert now because like just enough people know me and like I know just enough people that I can just go like sit in a corner and like some people will come talk to me. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, Kaustubh did an autograph session on Wednesday at 2 p.m.
But it's great. It's like I can literally just sort of sit there with a drink and be like, all right, at some point someone will talk to me, and if not, like fine. But I imagine if you're new and coming into this, like how do you get to know who is who? Like some sort of structured networking might be a nice idea.
Ooh, that's a good one. So maybe something like, one piece of feedback we got is we had too much content. There wasn't enough downtime, which is interesting. So we're going to make it so that Wednesday is we do some content on late Wednesday, then the opening dinner, all day Thursday dinner, but only a half a day on Friday because a lot of us just need to get home. So maybe what we do is just give some time where the people who select to the operator track just have a room, an open bar, and a chance to mingle. Same with people in the searcher track. And then for like the investor types who are there, they can pick.
Yeah, but what about like for the operator side? Like, what if you had like five 4-person tables, right? Like they are by definition, there's only 4 seats at each table, and there's like maybe a topic card, or those like little card talk
Yeah.
like conversation starter things,
Yeah.
and it's just sort of like people like it's a set hour of the program, and like people they get put at a seat if they want to be there, and then every like 15 to 20 minutes you blow the air horn and make them all rotate.
Group speed dating.
Yeah, exactly. Group speed dating, something like that, where it just like forces the connection a little bit, and gives them something to talk about. I think that could be an interesting, like, I don't know, like this is the like Anna, my partner. She's got like a lot of, she does this with like her friends basically.
Yeah.
And so this sort of like camp counselor energy, I think, could be interesting to bring to this community.
It's really interesting. Well, the first year we did SMBash, if you remember, we did hosted dinners where one of the nights, I think we had 3 or 4 different restaurants booked.
Right.
And so we sent smaller groups to different restaurants as a forced small group networking. And that was, really well received. That's a good idea.
Yeah, something like that. Because I like, otherwise, the initial conversation just stays the same every time, right? It's just like, what'd you buy? When'd you buy it? How's it going? Right? Like, I would love for like if 4 operators sit at a table and the question on the card goes like, what was the worst part of 2024?
Oof. Or like, what's the one thing that moved the needle last year?
Exactly.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay. I hear you.
Anyways, yeah. But I'd facilitate that if you want. That's something I would like enjoy doing, I think.
Would you do the matchmaking?
Probably. Yeah, I guess if people signed up.
Ignore like the logistical part of it. Would you be more interested in, for instance, writing the questions on the cards or putting people in the rooms at different times thoughtfully?
I think I would be more interested in writing questions on the cards and being potentially in the room to help facilitate the conversation.
Okay.
So I don't know. We can talk about it later. I'm already committing to something for next year, but there's something there that I think would be fun. Like I like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I love that idea.
Conversation.
I love it even better if you're heading it.
Exactly. Yeah, like it not even voluntold to just like create work for yourself.
All right. So other than the fact that I asked nicely, why do you go?
I think for me, it's a really healthy like step out of my business moment, right? Like what I go to 2 tree conferences per year, and this is like my one like fun conference, so to speak, of the year. And I think there's real value in stepping out of my industry and just kind of getting to see how other people are looking at their business in other industries. And this is sort of like outside of my direct one-to-one friends. This is like the quickest and like most like crammed in way to get like to hear about a lot of different businesses really fast. And I've always combined this with like whatever city we're in for SMBash, I'll try to meet someone locally. So in this case, I visited Ben Brinkoff's business, who I don't know if you know him, but he owns a appliance repair business in Dallas. So I blew off part of Tuesday and went and visited his shop and got a full tour and all of that. And came away kind of inspired of like, oh my gosh, he's got, over 20 techs running all over Dallas every day with one dispatcher. Like, why are we having a hard time dispatching 3 crews with one dispatcher? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, there's some like, this is just being done better. And I think like, I'm so in the industry now, like, which is weird, right? Because 3 years ago, I knew nothing about this, but I'm so in it now that like, even when I think of like comp structure or like dispatch structure or crew structure, I'm now like thinking about it as like, I know how 7 different tree companies do it and I'm picking which one I think makes the most sense. But there's some real value to just going and being like, oh, like, what does an appliance repair tech crew look like, right? And how did they manage their inventory and dispatch?
Yeah, I think it helps you think outside the box a little bit.
Yeah, and so at SMBash, you can have those conversations one to one.
Yeah. All right. So either who would you want to come and speak next year, or what topic should we make sure is on the slate?
I think my gut is to try to push for some non-recorded sessions that are more in depth on people management and HR management, like talent acquisition. Dealing with like, I think the most common one is like, how do you deal with an employee you're not sure what to do with, right? Like that's a really tough challenge for all business owners, especially new business owners. So I think like I would like, so much of running a small business is just people at the end of the day. It's a lot easier to talk about systems and processes, right? Like my talk was about process.
Yep.
But I think, and there were speakers who talked about people, but in a higher level, like template framework kind of way. I think it would be kind of cool to just dig into some real scenarios it's tough, right? Because it's like private and confidential. And so you got to figure out the right way to do it.
Do you think it's more, because this might be like the ubiquitous topic in SMB.
Right.
Would it be even better if it were like a round table where like there's 20 people in the room with chairs in a circle, and like the whole point is to raise your hand, give an example of when and how you dealt with it, kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. Like I think like at SMBash, like the speakers are obviously important, but like there's so much knowledge in the room that isn't being utilized because they're listening as opposed to speaking. Like if there was a way you could kind of activate that a little bit more.
Yep.
Totally. At the last dinner, I was sitting next to this guy who I met at the very end for dinner, and I'm spacing on his name, but he ran a digital marketing agency for like 15 years, sold it, and now like rather than retiring, he's like, maybe I'll buy another business. Right. Wow. And just like, oh, why did I give a talk about KPIs? Like this guy has been doing it for 15 years and he's wearing like the searcher lanyard. You know what I mean? Like, because he's like, yeah, I'm just like deciding if I want to do a search or not. But it's like, oh my gosh, like you know more than basically every searcher in the room combined.
Well, and it just so happens, aren't you about to kind of take that in-house and kind of become your own digital marketing expert?
That is not in-house, but I think like I feel much more comfortable like holding agencies accountable now. That I think the key part is like I can really own that. But anyways, I kind of came away partially, and like there were some people at SMBash who just had incredible experience and depth that were there in a listening capacity that I would love to be able to activate in future SMBashes.
Okay, cool. Super cool.
Yeah.
All right. So what I'll offer too is if anybody's crazy enough to have, listened this far into our podcast, well, it's Friday for us.
Yeah.
Send me an email with either people that need to be on stage or topics that need to be discussed, because, it's in my head and I'd love to hear like, what am I missing? Especially because I'm not as close to the action as I used to be.
Mm-hmm. How should they reach out to you?
Twitter, DM.
Perfect.
And email, but I don't really want to give my email out. So Twitter DM.
I got the email from somebody saying like, hey, here's some thoughts for you and Sam. Sam's done a good job of protecting his email. So you can forward it to him. I was like, all right, fair enough. Well done, Sam.
Well, I'm sure if you click 4 buttons or type it into ChatGPT, you're going to find it.
Yeah, you'd find it. One funny moment though at SMBash, as I was sitting there doing a little bit of work, Zach from your team came over. I was just like, hey man, so your like password protected K1 for us like doesn't seem to work. Do you mind resending? So I'm like sitting at SMBash. I'm like, oh my gosh, what? So I like fix your K1 for my business, send it back to him to get it processed. It's like, oh yeah, we're all just doing the same thing sometimes.
Here's a topic. Once you become a serial investor in ETA, how to deal with the absolute cluster that is filing your tax return every year.
Dude, okay, I just sent my email to my CPA for my personal taxes, and I'm just checking. I have for this year, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 7 1099s, 1 W-2, and 5 K1s.
And somebody asks you, why do you always have to extend?
Yeah,
It's not your
exactly.
fault. So here we are in
Um,
April, and I will admit I filed my 2023 return a month ago.
Respect.
Not good.
Not good. Did you owe anything?
Yeah, I was a little short, so I had to deal with that. But it's just when your own return leans on K1s from a bunch of other folks, which
Yeah.
are themselves delayed, and a bunch of
Totally.
it's a never ending, feels like a never ending Ponzi scheme. Like just constantly push.
Just keep going. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'm gonna go pick up. While I was at SMBash, I bought 2 Ford Mavericks.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's
and so we're
that's
gonna
another
go.
topic, by the way.
Yeah, I know, like how to like buy versus lease and all that type of stuff.
Totally. Vehicle logistics,
God.
vehicle purchasing, leasing, financing.
Yep. But 2 Ford Mavericks, the gas one we're getting for like at like 27-ish K, and the hybrid is like 28-ish K, and they're doing like 72 months on one and 84 months at the other with 0% down and like sub 7% financing. It's like, all right, that works. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
Where'd you find them? Do you have a dealer, or did you go online, or
it's
what?
it's a Ford dealer in Seattle. So pretty pleased. So I'm gonna go get them and figure out how to like. Yeah, we figured out how we're going to allocate it, but obviously, like when you bring new vehicles into a business, there's this like moment of like, wait, what's going on? Like, why aren't we buying this or that? So you got to manage that a little bit. But
also, it's exciting, right? It shows you're willing to invest. What if this were a topic at SMBash? The sort of comparison of lease versus buy, cash buy versus finance.
Totally.
And then things like gas cards, on-site, above ground gas tanks, the whole bit. Because we're all dealing
That'd be
with
awesome. Yeah, 100%. Like, I bet one of the HVAC plumbing guys would be perfect for that.
Oh, I was going to volunteer you, but that works.
Pass. No, actually, here's the problem: is like our big capital equipment can't be leased, right? Like you can't really lease a chip truck or a chipper. Yeah. They're too specific.
Yeah, somebody that has 50 technicians and runs an HVAC business. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, Rich Jordan, if you're listening at minute 47 or whatever we are, you're volunteered.
If Rich Jordan is listening at minute 48, like he's not allocating his time well. There's higher returning things Rich could be doing right now. Except now we can tell him we talk about him, and so he'll have to listen, and he won't know that he doesn't get mentioned until the very last minute.
That's right. Oh, that really bad thing Rich did. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's like a bit of a prank. Maybe we'll just start inserting pranks into our podcast. That's kind of fun.
Cool. All right. Well, we've got a new speaker and a new topic for next year. All right. Well, Kaustubh, thank you for joining me today for another episode of The Intentional Owner, and we'll be back next week.
Sweet. Thanks, Sam.
See you.